All right, we are live. So that's C-Boss. I'm Hunger to the Max. It's Thursday night, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of... You all right over there?
Okay, there we go. Technical difficulties right off the bat. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fun. This is going to be an episode, but I was trying to direct it to you.
Yes.
It's time for another... Let's try that again as we're live. It's time for another episode of...
Pushback with the Max and the Boss.
There we go. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter, hit the like button with the Judas effect courtesy of Chris Jericho, and deliver a curb stomp to the notification bell courtesy of, hopefully, the soon-to-be new World Heavyweight Champion, Seth freaking Rollins.
I like that.
So, or if you want to, you could hit the notification bell with a spear courtesy of the almighty Bobby Lashley. Whichever one you want to do.
I don't know. Give it a phenomenal forearm courtesy of the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Anyway, so before we get into our primary stuff, we do want to acknowledge the passing of a legend, the great Jim Brown. He passed away on Friday, I believe, at the age of 87.
87, yeah. Possibly the greatest Cleveland Browns player of all time. And I'd even reckon to say the greatest running back of all time.
You could definitely make an argument for that.
He was only in the league for 9 years, and it took about at least 30 years for anyone to even come close to his records.
Yeah. I feel like whenever we have a great running back in the NFL, his name is one of the first ones that they are compared to.
Yeah, right now Nick Chubb has been getting those comparisons since his rookie season, really.
Yeah. Not to say that Bijan Robinson, who just got drafted number 8 overall by the Atlanta Falcons, should be compared to him, but I feel like when running backs get drafted, comparisons are somehow made to Jim Brown.
It's like one of three. It's Jim Brown, it's Walter Payton, it's Barry Sanders, it's you could even go older and say like Gale Sayers,
Emmett
Smith, Herschel Walker,
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Of course, if you wanna compare him to a recent guy,
which Maurice Jones-Drew, I would even.
Of course, MJ Drew.
Yep. Brandon Jacobs, I would even say.
Isn't he still Brandon Jacobs? Isn't he active?
You're thinking of Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Josh Jacobs. When I think of I mean, if a white running back gets drafted, it's usually like comparisons like Peyton Hillis, who he had a great season in 2010. Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That put him on the cover of Madden, and then he got hit with the Madden curse.
And then contract issues.
Yes.
A lot of contract issues, sadly.
Yes. So, but when you think of the great running backs, the first one that comes to mind is...
of course, Jim Brown.
Yes. It's not... I wouldn't even say it's a debate, really, that he is the greatest running back of all time. Would you put him on the NFL Mount Rushmore?
Of running backs? Of course.
Okay. If I had to make an NFL Mount Rushmore, I would say Jim Brown. I would say Barry Sanders, Emmett Smith, and I would, for my fifth one, because he's my favorite. Because he's my favorite player of all time, there's no way I'm leaving him off. LaDainian Tomlinson. I've always been a huge LT fan.
Here's my 4.
Okay.
It's Jim Brown, not Herschel Walker, the other guy for the Bears.
Gary Payton.
Walter Payton.
Walter Payton. My bad.
Barry Sanders, and then of course you can't leave off Emmett Smith.
And I mean no disrespect to Walter Payton, but there was no way I was going to leave LT off. Not when he's
Yeah,
my
there's a lot of names that could be thrown into this conversation. It's like I don't even think you could have a Mount Rushmore because there's at least like 6 or 7 guys that you could like say, oh, these are the greatest running backs of all time without a doubt.
Yes. That actually leads right into our first segment as I get my stopwatch going. Give me a sec. All right. And we're good to go. All right. So I would say right now, the best player in the world title in the NBA is currently vacant. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. Obviously the person who won MVP couldn't even make it out of the second round. LeBron got swept in the conference finals. Kevin Durant, second round, right? Was the Suns or the first
second round?
Okay, Kevin Durant got eliminated in the second round. Steph Curry got eliminated in the second round.
Giannis got eliminated in the first round.
I'd say the guy right now closest to being the two guys I would say are closest to that point. This NBA Finals will decide best player in the world, and there's 2 guys that come to my mind: Nikola Jokic and Jimmy Butler.
The problem with including Jimmy Butler is he really only explodes like this in the regular or in the playoffs. That's why he has the nickname Playoff Jimmy. I wouldn't say he reaches superstar level in the regular season. But I do understand where you're coming from. If the Celtics are able to come back from a 3-0 deficit and Jason Tatum gets into the finals, I would say he has a chance at it.
Absolutely. But does anyone really think that's going to happen?
I mean, Game 5 is tonight, which we'll get there. And by the way, we'll give score updates throughout the night. Game starts at about 8:30 Eastern time. Celtics are trying to be the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-0 deficit. But yeah, I would agree. Jokic probably has the best chance at taking back or capturing the best player in the world title right now. He's won back-to-back MVPs, and he was named Western Conference Finals MVP, and he's most likely going to be the best player in the NBA Finals. So,
right.
Yeah.
On that point of Jimmy Butler not being like a regular season superstar, he did kind of lead Miami to the first seed last year.
Yes, I will agree with you there, but I just feel
he's just a little inconsistent in the regular season.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes, whereas once it gets to the playoffs, he turns it up to another level.
Right, and that's kind of what you need out of a superstar. You want them to, be good in the playoffs.
Right. And obviously I'm not saying this as to disrespect Jimmy Butler, because I know what he can do and I understand what he's done. But I just feel like he's more of a playoff type of guy rather than regular season.
Right.
But does Steph Curry really have a chance at taking the title back? Or LeBron? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, from what I'm hearing, LeBron is considering retirement.
I don't know how legit that whole thing is. I don't believe it. So I'm not really investing too much time and energy into that because I just I don't believe it.
Right. I won't believe it until he actually says it, and even then, it could be a Tom Brady retirement where he just happens to come out of retirement.
Right. And we're not going to get into the whole John Morant situation because I just don't want to touch on all that.
I don't even care about it. Like, he pulled out a gun, and then he was in the wrong here. He got rightfully suspended by the team.
Yeah. Again, I don't really want to touch on it, but because that's just not something I really want to discuss too much. But I will say, I think because of this whole situation and his previous suspension, as you touched on, I think he's out of the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. He was in the conversation for maybe last year, and then this year he kind of just fell off.
Yeah. The one player who I wish was in the conversation plays out in the Pacific Northwest.
Damian Lillard.
Yes. I want him to be in that conversation so bad.
He's a good player, a great player even. He just has no teammates.
Right. And this kind of hurt Christian McCaffrey when he was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy a few years ago. As we'll wrap up this discussion, but I think part of the reason why Christian McCaffrey didn't win the Heisman was because he played at Stanford. So all of his games were at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So nobody really got to see what he could do. It's the same problem for Damian Lillard. Because he plays in Portland, nobody in the East is going to stay up and watch his games.
But you could also make that argument for Steph Curry, who also won back-to-back MVPs. He plays in the exact same division as Damian Lillard, but
they don't play in the same division because the Trailblazers are in the Northwest Division and the Warriors are in the Pacific Division, but they're in the same time zone.
They're in the same time zone, and yet Steph Curry got a lot of attention in 2014-15 and 2015-16 especially, when the Warriors went on a 73-9 record.
I think that's also because you see the Warriors in primetime games a lot, on ESPN, TNT and stuff. So you get to see Steph. You get to see Klay Thompson. But, the Trailblazers, they're not going to be on primetime TV
unless they're playing a team that gets a lot of primetime coverage, like the Lakers, the Warriors,
the Celtics.
I reckon even the Knicks.
Yeah. Which we'll transition to our second topic, which is the NBA playoffs. So tonight, as we said earlier, is Game 5 between the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics. The Celtics were able to hold off elimination in Game 4 and force this Game 5. But here's the thing. The Celtics are 4-5 on their home court in the playoffs this season.
And that is certainly an issue, especially for, trying to stave off elimination from a team who has, for the first 3 games of this series, outclassed them in every way.
Right. Which you would think Boston would just destroy Miami because Boston is the 2 seed and Miami is the number 8 seed. But, Miami defeated Milwaukee in the first round. Granted, Giannis was injured for 3 of those games. So who's to say Miami would have won that series if Milwaukee had stayed healthy?
Right.
And then the Heat took out the Knicks in 5 games. Which,
I mean, the Heat have more star power than the Knicks.
Yes. Because they have Jimmy Butler and Kevin Love and New York.
Kyle Lowry.
Yes. I do like what Miami has done, though, with Heat culture and all that. That's how they've done this for so long. They're trying to get back to the finals for the second time in, 3 years?
3 years. 4 years. Let's see. Last year was Celtics Warriors. The year before that was
Bucks,
Bucks,
Suns.
Suns, and then the year before that. So this would be the 4th year
Okay,
of that 4-year span.
correct. And they were in the finals from 2014 to 2011. So, yeah.
Yeah, 2011 to 2014. 4 years in a row, which is impressive on its own right. And look at the star power they had then. They had LeBron, D. Wade, Chris Bosh,
Ray
Allen for a couple years. They
Mario
had
Chalmers.
And then they got they had Udonis Haslem, who was still in his prime back then.
Yep, and they still have Udonis Haslem now.
He's still in the league.
Yep, he's still
I thought
playing.
he would have retired by this point.
He's retiring at the end of the season.
Let's hope he retires with one more ring.
We shall see.
He's got what, 3 already?
He was on the 2006 team.
And then 2012 and 2013.
So he has 3 of them, yes.
Could you imagine getting all your rings with one team?
Hey, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili did that.
Tim Duncan has one more ring than the other 2. Because he has one with David Robinson.
In 1999.
Yep.
Which, congrats to the San Antonio Spurs on getting the number 1 overall pick, which means they will be drafting Victor Wembanyama.
Fun fact about that, this is the 3rd time in franchise history the Spurs got the number 1 overall pick. You want to take a guess on the last 2 players?
I already know this. David Robertson and Tim freaking Duncan.
Isn't it ironic? Like, they always pick a big man who turns out to be a generational talent.
The only thing that concerns me is Greg Popovich is a very old school head coach, and Victor Wembanyama is not an old school player. So I don't know how well they're going to mesh, you know?
If anything, Pop can adapt to his players. Kawhi Leonard was not a very much old school player when he came into the league, and look what Pop did with Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard became a 2-time Finals MVP, 2-time champion, I think 3-time Defensive Player of the Year ? I know he's won it at least once.
But he did force his way out of San Antonio and got to Toronto.
I know why he did that. The Spurs were rebuilding.
It was also because of he was having like issues with his knees or something, and I don't know. Maybe he should just retire at this point because it seems like he's always having some type of.
He's injured. I mean, he's got his Hall of Fame case: 2 rings, 2 Finals MVPs.
Yeah, but
brought the Clippers to their first ever Western Conference Finals.
Yes, but he did not play in those because he got in. He tore his
around before.
Yes, but that's where he suffered a season-ending injury.
Right.
I don't think he even finished that second round series against Utah. Actually,
he did.
No.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't play the last game.
Right, because I think it was Game 5 where he suffered the season-ending injury.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
But speaking of the Northwest Division, which Utah is in, we have our first team in the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. The Denver Nuggets will play in the NBA Finals.
Let's hope they start off 1-0 because a lot of teams don't.
So here's the situation. If Miami does go on to win the fourth and final game and advance to the finals, Denver would have home court advantage because they're the number 1 seed. Miami is the number 8 seed. But if the Boston Celtics make history and become the first team to come back from a 3-0 deficit, they would have home court advantage in the finals.
Because they had the better record.
Correct. I figured that out last year in the finals because I believe Boston was the higher seed against Golden State, but the Warriors had the better record, which is why they had home court advantage.
Yes.
And I think that was the case in 2019 with the Raptors and the Warriors, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like he might be having some technical issues over there. So we're going to just try and work through this right now because, well, this is one of our biggest shows of the year, so we're not stopping. But yeah, so the Denver Nuggets, they swept LeBron James and Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I believe I saw that this is the first sweep in the history of the Nuggets. Don't quote me on that, though. So, right now, like I said, C-Boss is having a little bit of technical difficulties, but as they say, the show must go on. So, yeah, the Nuggets are in the NBA Finals, and I think the reason they were able to reach this point is because they surrounded Jokic and Jamal Murray with complementary pieces, like an Aaron Gordon, like a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, and amongst others. Christian Braun, the rookie out of Kansas. Hey, what's up, Bork? Like, all of them contributed in some type of fashion to the Nuggets getting to this point. And I think if Denver continues to play like this, where they're not overly reliant on Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, then they can win the finals. Even if it's Miami in the finals. Miami's a scrappy team. I'll give them that. So I could see the Heat pushing the series to 6 or 7 games. But overall, I think Denver would still win because they have more depth. Miami is without Tyler Hero at the moment. I believe Kevin Love had some type of injury. Gabe Vincent, don't know if he's going to play tonight in Game 5. Because I believe he might have sprained his ankle in the last game. I'm not 100% sure. But it looked like he did. So we shall see. Yeah, Denver's a formidable team. And for some reason, this entire season, they've just been getting extremely overlooked. No, I wouldn't say that even though they were the number 1 seed, they weren't really given much of a chance. Like, everybody was talking about Golden State, Memphis, before we knew John Morant was going to do what he ended up doing. And Golden State. And I heard a little bit of discussion about the Lakers, but I didn't really hear anything about the Denver Nuggets. And yet here they are as the last team standing in the Western Conference, and they're in the NBA Finals. So Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray deserve their respect. Like, they've done this the right way. I believe they drafted Jokic. They drafted Michael Porter Jr. I forgot to mention him earlier. They traded for Aaron Gordon. They signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They drafted Christian Braun. They've stayed with their head coach, Michael Malone. So they've been building this. And if it wasn't for the Jamal Murray injury a couple seasons ago, maybe they would have been in this position earlier. Who knows? But yeah, I think the Nuggets are the team to beat, even if Boston somehow, some way comes back from a 3-0 deficit to defeat the Miami Heat, which I don't think that's going to happen. It's never happened in the history of the NBA. It's happened a couple times in the NHL. And the most famous time it happened in Major League Baseball, it was in 2004 when the Boston Red Sox did it to their arch rivals, the New York Yankees. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities, but it's highly unlikely. Like I said earlier, the Celtics are 4-5 on their home court in the playoffs. That's not good. Like against Atlanta, they should have destroyed Atlanta. That series should have been over in 5 games at most. Instead, the Hawks were able to force a game 6. And then in the second round, the Celtics should have beaten the 76ers in probably 5 games or something. But nope, they allowed the 76ers to hang around, and that sent the series to 7 games.
Hi, I'm back at internet problems again.
Let's see what Bork says. I ain't mad with the Nuggets versus Heat in the finals as long as Boston and LA weren't facing each other in the finals. I don't care.
I would have liked either scenario, but I think this one gives us a fresh final, something we've not seen before, you know?
Right. I think people were clamoring for Celtics Lakers because both teams are trying to get their 18th championship, which would be the most in NBA history, and plus it's Celtics Lakers.
Right. But at the same time and token, I just think that, like, yes, the Celtics Lakers. And if you think about it, every Lakers legend has faced the Celtics in the finals. Kareem,
Magic Johnson,
Wilt Chamberlain,
I don't
Kobe
think
Bryant.
I don't think Shaq faced the Celtics in the finals.
He didn't. At least, no, he didn't.
No.
Shoot. But Kobe did. I know
Yes.
that in 2008 and in 2010. And I feel like a lot of people were thinking like, oh, it's finally LeBron's time to get his Lakers Celtics matchup. You know?
Yeah, I agree with you. If it is Nuggets Heat in the finals, the TV ratings aren't going to be very high because neither. I get it. It's Miami, but Miami. I wouldn't say Miami is a big market.
They're definitely a bigger market than Denver.
Yes, but would you say Miami is like a big market the way LA is, or Chicago, or Boston, or New York?
I'd say at least for the Eastern, they're in the big 3. I'd say it's Boston, New York, Miami.
What about Chicago?
Chicago's 4th.
Okay.
I'd put Chicago under Miami. In terms of marketability, yeah.
But Jokic and Butler are 2 guys who are long overdue for a ring.
Butler, I'd say, is longer overdue since he's been in the league longer. But yes, Jokic is definitely overdue his ring.
Correct.
He has the back-to-back MVPs. Can he pull off his Giannis and get a ring?
We will have to wait and see. But we were just talking about Denver or Miami in a possible finals preview. We'll see if, in fact, that finals comes to fruition. But let me ask you this. Do you think Denver or Miami could be considered title town for 2023? Because the Nuggets are in the finals. The Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup last year.
Okay.
And so you have that. And then the Florida Panthers, we'll get to them a little later. They advanced to their first Stanley Cup since 1996.
I was about to say this isn't their first time in the Cup final, but it's been a long time coming.
And the Miami Heat are 1 win away from the NBA Finals. So, like,
I feel like to be Titletown, you have to have won a championship in multiple sports, you know? Like,
Okay.
when they said Tampa was Titletown in 2020, it was because in 2020 you had
The Lightning,
the Lightning and the Buccaneers who won
the Super Bowl. And you also had the Tampa Bay Rays who reached the World Series, but fell to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Butler needs 6 rings to live up to his dad's legacy. Looks like Seaboss is having technical difficulties again, but I understand what he's saying about a city needing multiple championships in 1 year. But I feel like you can make an argument that Denver could be considered Titletown because of the fact that they won the Stanley Cup last year and they could win the NBA Finals this year. Do I think the Denver Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl this year? No, because you still have the Kansas City Chiefs in that division. You still have the Buffalo Bills around, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, Miami Dolphins, the LA Chargers. So, no, I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl. And the Colorado Rockies are definitely not going to win the World Series. So I think that's a valid argument if you want to make it. But so Miami has a better chance of being Titletown. I will say that because, again, the Heat, they're 1 win away from the NBA Finals, and the Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 1996, where they lost to the Colorado Avalanche. Speaking of which. But, yeah, like Seaboss was saying earlier, Tampa was Titletown because the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup in 2020. And you also had the Rays come within a couple games of winning the World Series. So, yeah. In the future, my Raptors will be back in the finals and we will win our second title. We'll see about that, Bork. I mean, in order for Toronto to be considered Titletown, the Blue Jays would have to win the World Series and the Maple Leafs would have to win the Stanley Cup, or the Blue Jays win the World Series and the Raptors win the NBA Finals, or the Maple Leafs and Raptors both win championships. I know that Toronto has the Toronto Argonauts, but they're not in the NFL. So in this particular conversation, I'm going to say they do not count. Even if they were to go on and win the Grey Cup, because I know that's the championship you win, or that's what you win if you are the last team standing in the Canadian Football League. Again, our apologies that Seaboss is having technical difficulties. Apparently, this has been going on all day, but like I said, we're going to keep things going. Thanks for staying patient and staying with us. We do appreciate it. But yeah, Cleveland was Titletown back in 2016 because the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals. The Lake Erie Monsters, AHL affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets, won the Calder Cup, and Stipe Miocic won the UFC Heavyweight Championship. So in my opinion, that made Cleveland Titletown for 2016. I get it. The only major title that the city of Cleveland won was the NBA Finals, but in my opinion, Cleveland was Titletown for 2016. All right, so that's going to do it for that segment as we move on to our next topic in this conversation. So the Cleveland Browns schedule got released last week. So we're going to give you our reaction to it. So the Browns have 2 primetime games. Week 2 at the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football, and then Week 17 in our home finale, the New York Jets come to town for Thursday Night Football. And I wrote down some key games for the schedule. Week 4 at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Week 7 at the Indianapolis Colts. Week 10 at the Baltimore Ravens. Week 11 home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Week 14 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Browns will be trying to get to the wild card round. I don't think they're going to win the division. Not with Baltimore and Cincinnati hanging around and being as good as they are. So I think the Browns will be fighting for wild card position. And I think they'll be fighting with the Indianapolis Colts and Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why I put those 2 games on there. So, and then of course you have your divisional games, the Ravens and the Steelers. That's no disrespect towards the Pittsburgh Steelers, but first of all, the Ravens are the Browns' biggest rival, and for me, it's not even close. I'm pumped for A-Rod's debut for the New York Jets. And he will be making his debut on Monday Night Football in Week 1 at home against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So that will be a very fascinating matchup. But, again, no disrespect to the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Battle of Ohio is important. No disrespect. But I feel like the 2 games against Baltimore and the home game against Pittsburgh will have bigger impacts on the Browns season. And I say that because the 2 games against the Bengals are Week 1 here in Cleveland and Week 18 in Cincinnati. So, yes, the game in Cincinnati could have an impact on where the 2 teams find themselves in the playoffs, but I don't know. Like, you have to wait until like you get to week 13, week 15 to know whether the final game of the season could actually be impactful in any way. Whereas I think those middle games that I was talking about, week 7 against the Indianapolis Colts and week 14 against Jacksonville, those games have a little more meaning, at least in my opinion. And like I said earlier, I think the Colts and Jaguars are going to be crucial games for the Browns, because those could be the 2 teams the Browns are fighting for wild card positioning. Granted, I think Jacksonville is ultimately going to win the AFC South, because I think the Colts, Texans, and Titans are all kind of in rebuild mode, if you will. You know, the Texans just drafted C.J. Stroud, rookie quarterback. The Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, rookie quarterback. And the Titans drafted Will Levis, rookie quarterback. But Will Levis might not start because you still have Ryan Tannehill there. By the same token, Anthony Richardson might not start right away for the Colts because they have Gardner Minshew. And it looks like Seaboss is back.
I don't like that this is happening, but it's I think Spectrum is experiencing outages in my area.
All right. So right now I'm just talking about the Browns schedule and some of the key games on it. So the key games I mentioned are the 2 matchups against Baltimore.
Yep.
Week 4 here in Cleveland and week 10 in Baltimore. Week 7 at the Indianapolis Colts.
Right.
Week 11 against Pittsburgh here in Cleveland.
Of course, that one.
And then week 14 against Jacksonville.
What about week 1 against Cincinnati? Like that is a key matchup. You want to start the season off right.
Yes, but I don't mean this in a disrespectful way towards the Bengals, but I don't know if the Battle of Ohio really has a lot of meaning right now because I feel like the Browns have relatively owned that series,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like the Bengals are the better team because, they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and last season they nearly got back to the Super Bowl. Whereas I don't know what the Browns are. They feel like a wild card team. So,
And we have at least had a playoff win.
right. But still, it feels like the Bengals games just don't have the same punch
Right.
to them.
Because either the Browns win in blowout fashion or the Bengals win in blowout fashion.
Right. And I was saying that, like, the games against the Colts and Jaguars, those could be the two teams the Browns are, like, fighting for wild card positioning.
Right, especially Jacksonville with that strong run they had last year.
Right. Although I would say Jacksonville is most likely going to win their division because Indianapolis, Houston, and Tennessee all have rookie quarterbacks. So they're kind of in rebuild mode a little bit.
Unless Tennessee makes a strong case with Derrick Henry carrying the team on his back again, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Right. The only other team from the AFC South that I could see making the playoffs is Indianapolis.
They need to prove themselves. They need to prove that they can be more than just the team that ruined Andrew Luck and Peyton, or the team that nearly killed Peyton Manning and ruined Andrew Luck.
Right. I don't know if Anthony Richardson is going to start right away for them because
Right. It wouldn't be smart to start a rookie quarterback, but who do they have?
Gardner Minshew.
Do you start him though? Because he's not been very capable as a starter.
My guess is they will start Minshew and then switch to Anthony Richardson later in the season, but we'll see.
Right.
What are some of your key games for the Browns?
Some of my key games, the two matchups against the Ravens, as you had said, those games are always good. The game against the Bears, not so much on the side of the Browns, but on the side of the Bears. I think, that's a team Justin Fields has to prove himself against. Because last time Justin Fields took on the Browns, it didn't end so well for him.
Yeah, Myles Garrett had a field day.
Mm-hmm.
9 sacks I don't remember if he had 9 sacks himself or if it was 9 sacks as a team.
I want to say that's right. 9 sacks as a team. Because I know Clowney got in there for at least 2 of them. And I know our linebackers definitely got to him several times, especially Malcolm Smith.
Yeah. But, yeah. And the Bears have an interesting week 1 game because they play the Packers. So that's Jordan Love against Justin Fields. So the storylines coming out of that game could be really interesting. Like, if the Packers win, it's, Justin Fields couldn't beat the Packers again. And if the Bears win, it's, did the Packers make the right decision by getting rid of Aaron Rodgers and investing in Jordan Love and all this and that,
Right. I think there's going to be a lot of stories. I also have a key game for the Browns in that, was it week 17 against the Jets?
Yep, Thursday Night Football.
I have that as a key game because this is a whole new Jets team. The Browns historically suck against the Jets.
We saw that last year.
We saw it 2015 season opener.
Yep.
Our last win against them was what, 2019?
Yes. That was when the Browns finally won a game. Because remember, they went
No, that was 2018 against the Jets. 2019 against the Jets was that night game where OBJ had a field day. And that was his only good game as a Cleveland Brown.
2019. Oh, yeah, the Monday night game against the Jets. Yeah.
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 And that was his only good game as a Cleveland Brown.
Let's see. Borg says the Bears got some new players that could help their offense. Yes, they did get DJ Moore.
That is true. They did. That was in the trade package for the first overall pick, wasn't it?
That is correct. But we're going to move on to our next topic because the NFL announced some locations for Super Bowls and drafts. So Super Bowl 58 this season is going to be at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas.
Okay.
You've got Super Bowl 59. That will be at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans.
Okay. The last time the Super Bowl went to New Orleans, it was a pretty good one.
And then Super Bowl 60 will be in the same spot as Super Bowl 50, which is Levi's Stadium in San Francisco.
That was a good Super Bowl to watch.
Yeah, Denver won that game 24-10 against Carolina.
It was a 2-touchdown game. Not bad.
Yeah, not a lot of offense, though. It was
a defensive game, and that's why, the guy who won Super Bowl MVP, Von Miller, did.
Yes.
Because he was, he had, 2 sacks, a strip sack, a fumble recovery.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think?
He had a lot.
So what do you think of those locations for the Super Bowl?
I like them. There's a lot there. There's a lot of decent locations. Levi's is great. Allegiant's great. I think New Orleans. I don't think New Orleans has had a bad Super Bowl attached to them before.
Yeah, the last Super Bowl I think New Orleans hosted was Ravens 49ers with the Black.
And that was a really fun Super Bowl to watch, especially at the end.
I'm trying to remember what Super Bowl they hosted before that.
They hosted I want to say they hosted one before that. Either that or I'm thinking because Arizona hosts a Super Bowl every 5 years or something like that.
It does seem like that, yeah.
They just hosted the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Miami last hosted the Super Bowl. Oh, Miami hosted the Super Bowl only a couple years ago. But the NFL also announced where the next 2 drafts are going to be. The 2024 draft is going to be in the Motor City with the Detroit Lions hosting. And then the 2025 NFL draft will be in what NFL fans call Title Town, which is Green Bay, Wisconsin. So the NFC North gets to host the next 2 NFL drafts because of the Lions and the Packers. That's actually interesting. The NFC is hosting both 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls and the next 2 NFL drafts. I don't think there's really too much to read into that, but that's kind of interesting, actually. I hadn't even thought about that. But I think I read something the other day that the only teams who haven't hosted any type of season opening event or any type of event in the NFL since 2013 was Washington, Jacksonville. There were a couple other cities on there, and I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But Seattle has hosted the season opening game in 2014 when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2013. I think Baltimore might have been one of the teams on the list because although the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2012, they couldn't host the season opening game because it conflicted with the Baltimore Orioles having a home game, and I guess M&T Bank Stadium and Oriole Park at Camden Yards share a parking lot or something, so it logistically just didn't work out. Let's see. would they ever go outside of the U.S. for the Super Bowl? Because I would love a Super Bowl in Toronto. That's a good question, Bork. I don't think the NFL would go outside of the U.S. for a Super Bowl because all of the teams in the NFL are here in the United States. Maybe if Toronto had an NFL team, they would do it. But as of right now, I would have to say no. That doesn't mean I wouldn't want that, because I think that would be really neat for the NFL to do a Super Bowl outside of the U.S. and do it in Canada, like Toronto or, Toronto, actually. But just to touch on that super quick, I do find that interesting that Toronto has an NHL team, the Maple Leafs. They've got an NBA team, the Raptors. They've got an MLB team, the Blue Jays, but they don't have a NFL team. I know that the Buffalo Bills played a couple games up in Toronto at the Blue Jays Stadium, but overall it's interesting to me that the city of Toronto does not have an NFL team. I would have thought they would. But instead, they have a Canadian football team, the Toronto Argonauts. But yeah, the fact that, I think Pittsburgh might have been one of those teams on the list. I'd have to, like I said, I'd have to look it up. But I believe Washington was one of the teams. Jacksonville. I believe Baltimore was on there. Pittsburgh. I'm almost positive those 4 teams were on the list. Let's see. Bork says, once upon a time, Canada had 2 NBA teams, the Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies, but they eventually moved to Memphis. That is correct. That is correct. That Canada used to have 2 NBA teams, but now they only have the Raptors. But yeah, I think it's very interesting that you've got Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, which is NFC. You've got Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, which is NFC. Excuse me. And you've got NFL Draft 2024 in Detroit, NFC. And NFL Draft 2025, Green Bay, NFC.
Yes. A lot of NFC, but a lot of those NFC teams that they have the Super Bowls for, they're on more sort of the western or southern, where it's a lot warmer and they can have those Super Bowls in the winter without having to worry about people freezing. Remember when they did the Super Bowl in New York? It was cold.
Yes. Detroit did host the Super Bowl in 2005. Super Bowl 40, which I think Seahawks fans are still bitter about that Super Bowl because I guess there's a ton of conspiracy theories surrounding that Super Bowl or something.
Oh, there were a few calls that were just completely blatantly towards Pittsburgh.
And, oh, by the way, we've got Game 4 going on between Vegas and Dallas. The Vegas Golden Knights can advance to the Stanley Cup Final if they win tonight. And it looks like it is already 1-0 Vegas.
That is correct, with 7:43 left in the first period. The Stars are without their captain, Jamie Benn, because, shocker, he threw another illegal hit.
By the way, Game 5 of the Heat and Celtics is also underway. Right now, it is 4-4.
Former Blue Jacket William Karlsson is the goal scorer for Vegas.
Right now, let's see. Jimmy Butler has 2 points. Bam Adebayo has 2 points. Boston just took the lead 6-4. Jason Tatum with 4 points. And Marcus Smart with 2.
Okay. Assisted on that goal by Carlson was Riley Smith and Nicholas Waugh.
All right. So that's going to do it for that segment. So next up, we have two possible team relocations. The Oakland A's could be headed for Las Vegas. It seems every day like that's becoming more of an inevitability. But we also could be seeing the Arizona Coyotes possibly move.
Right. There was a vote on a possible stadium in Tempe, Arizona.
Correct.
And that vote was almost, I want to say it was almost unanimously shot down by the Tempe City Council.
I think the city council might have approved it, but when it was put on the ballot, Tempe, it was shot down.
It was shot down.
Either way, it was shot down. So there are a lot of rumors of the Coyotes relocating and leaving Arizona. Don't know how much validity there is to them. But if they were to leave, I could see the Coyotes moving to Houston, Kansas City. Let's see. Maybe
Quebec City's been thrown around as a possible location. Atlanta's been thrown around. Even places that are like out of the blue, like Hartford.
I don't think they would.
I don't think it would be Hartford's too close to Boston, honestly, and that's kind of why the Whalers failed.
Right. I could see. I get what you're saying about if the Coyotes were to move to Houston, because you already have the Dallas Stars there.
And the Dallas Stars don't even pull that much of a market anyway. Hockey, they're not a hockey market. And a lot of the Dallas Stars fans aren't the best people. We saw it in Game 3 when they were, actually throwing stuff at the Vegas Golden Knights players as they were coming out of their tunnel.
Yeah. But I could see the city of Houston hosting an NHL team.
There's one city that you threw out there that I think would be a decent possibility.
Kansas City?
No, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, yes. I think that an NHL team in Salt Lake City would do fantastic. When I was out there for a Utah Jazz game, on the day I left, my dad and I are sitting in the little restaurant area for breakfast, and there were people in LA Kings jerseys.
There's definitely hockey fans in Salt Lake City. I've seen a few I've seen people that I've seen at Mark's with a Utah license plate. They were shopping and they had Vegas Golden Knights stuff all over their car.
Yeah. What team, since Utah doesn't have an NHL team, what team do you think broadcasts out there? It would be,
what would be in market?
Yeah. What would be in market?
Their closest city is Vegas, right?
I think so.
So it would either be Vegas or I think Colorado is also pretty close to Utah.
Yeah. I think my guess would be either, I would say maybe the LA Kings.
Of course. Vegas, Colorado, I'd say a couple of those teams.
Yeah.
Maybe San Jose is too Southern Cal.
Northern California for
San Jose?
San Jose is Northern California.
I thought it was Southern. But yeah, then probably them as well.
I would say Arizona probably broadcasts out there.
Maybe that's a little too far south. Seattle.
Yeah. But switching to the Oakland A's, yeah, it seems like an inevitability at this point. They're gonna move to Vegas.
I'd say I think it's with 100% certainty.
Yes.
They're going to Vegas.
Yes. And you realize that means the city of Oakland will have lost all 3 of its major pro sports teams. Because first you had the Golden State Warriors leave and go to San Francisco. Then
Right.
you had the Oakland Raiders move to Las Vegas and become the Las Vegas Raiders. And now you have the Oakland A's more than likely moving to Las Vegas and becoming the Las Vegas Athletics.
Right. And they also had a defunct NHL team, the Oakland Seals, which became the California Golden Seals, which then became the Cleveland Barons.
Which kind of, in an indirect way, became the San Jose Sharks.
And in a more direct way, became the Dallas Stars because they folded into the Minnesota North Stars.
Correct. And you also have maybe the Tampa Bay Rays. Don't know what's going to happen with their stadium and Tropicana Field, so you never know.
If Tampa Bay moves, it's going to be Nashville.
I would love to see a Major League Baseball team in Nashville.
I think everyone would. That would be a fun time. Nashville's got a lot of or Tennessee, they love their pro sports teams.
No disrespect to the Memphis Grizzlies, but I kind of wish they were in Nashville.
Nashville's the bigger market. Come on, Memphis.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it though.
No, because the Titans play in Nashville.
Correct. The
Predators play in Nashville.
Yep.
At Bridgestone Arena, actually.
Yep. See, these are the kind of storylines we like to talk about.
And the storylines, you know what the storylines do?
They
bring us to games.
Yes, they do. I don't know about you.
Oh, we got a tie.
Who? Vegas?
Dallas tied it up. Jason Robertson.
All right.
Play goal.
All right. But Vegas, or I'm sorry, are there certain teams in the Big Four that you're like, I want to see my hometown team, whether it's the Cavs, the Browns, or the Guardians?
All the time.
Give me some of them.
Baltimore Orioles, because I love the Orioles. They are my second favorite team.
Okay, so we're going to go with some Major League Baseball teams. So you got the Orioles. Who else?
The Denver Broncos.
Okay. Oh, I thought we were staying with Major League Baseball.
No, I'm going with all sports. The Denver Broncos, because again, I love the Broncos.
Okay.
Who? For the NBA, if it's any team I haven't seen, I'm trying to think of teams. Oh, Toronto Raptors.
Okay. So for me, the St. Louis Cardinals are just, even though I've seen them play the Guardians once before, I was really hoping to see them again because they're in town this weekend, but it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, Friday night game, and then they have a game on Saturday at, 1?
No, that's a nighttime game as well.
And then the Sunday game's at 1.
Right, which I didn't want to do that. But, the Cardinals are just one of those teams. They have so much history. They're one of those they're just one of the most famous teams in Major League Baseball, and you're like, I need to see them.
And you've been to their ballpark, too.
Yes, I loved Busch Stadium. That was my favorite baseball game I've ever seen in person, even though the Cardinals won 13-0. But I got to see Adam Wainwright pitch, Yadier Molina behind the plate doing the catching, and Albert Pujols came on as a pinch hitter and hit a freaking grand slam.
That is pretty cool. I think the best game I don't even know what the best game I've ever seen was. I've been to so many Guardians games. I'd say maybe it was one of the 2007 ALDS games against
the Yankees.
I went to one of those. All I remember is that Travis Hafner hit a home run and it was a walk-off.
Okay. But for the NBA, I would say Boston is one of those teams.
And we have seen Boston play the Cavs.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, even though
We lost. Yep. I'm trying to think who else for the NBA. Not this season, I would say Memphis, but I'm not sure about the Grizzlies moving forward.
Well, as long as Dylan Brooks is far away from the team and far away from the Cavs, whoever said he was that this was his landing destination.
Oh God, please no.
If he comes here, I would consider quitting the Cavs. I just do not like him. He is
an a-hole.
The worst.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of who else I would
Philly.
Like to see in the NBA. My first ever Cavs game was against Philadelphia, and we got destroyed, even though we had LeBron.
Okay, but you know my feelings about the 76ers, so it's understandable.
I'd like to see Atlanta again.
Okay,
that was the first game I ever went to where the Cavs won, and I had a great time.
I'll give you a wild card one. Orlando.
Unless they have Dwight Howard or Shaq, I'm not paying to see at Orlando.
Actually, I think the Magic are a team the Cavaliers need to watch out for in the future because they have Franz Wagner, they have Mo Wagner, they have Paolo Banchero, the reigning Rookie of the Year.
They had Paolo.
They have some nice pieces. So I think they could be a dangerous team in the next couple seasons. I'm not saying championship contender or like a team that could make a serious playoff run, but I think the Magic could be a dangerous team in a couple years. Like if they were to get a legitimate point guard, they look out.
Oh, and don't lose your star big man to the Lakers.
Yes.
Isn't it ironic that it's happened twice?
Yes.
Wait, did it happen again with Mo Bamba?
He wasn't really a star big man for the Magic.
But he was a big man for the Magic that ended up on the Lakers.
Yes. I would say for the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks. But so that was amazing when I got to see the Browns and Seahawks play here in Cleveland in 2019. I'm trying to convince my dad to get tickets and fly out to Seattle for that Week 8 Halloween weekend matchup against the Seahawks.
Do we play against the Denver against Denver? Yeah, against the Broncos. Is that a home game?
No, that's in Denver.
Dang. Dang. I would love to. I mean, I would if I had the money and the time, I would go out there for that game.
Yes.
I like both teams.
I'm actually most likely headed to Fenway next week to see the Red Sox.
That's pretty cool. I've seen the Red Sox plenty of times. I've never been to Fenway. I've seen them at both Progressive Field and
Camden Yards.
Camden Yards back in 2000. I want to say that was 2004.
Even though I've seen the Orioles once or twice here in Cleveland, I would say they're on my list.
Yeah, I've only ever seen them once in Cleveland, and it was 2 years ago. It was on our friend John's birthday.
Yes.
He had his first legal beer that game.
Do you know that the American League East is the only division in Major League Baseball right now where every team has a winning record?
Really? That's odd.
Yep, every team in that division has a winning record. Yep. No other division has that.
Then again, most of the other AL divisions are either there's one top team and the rest are a joke, or the entire division's a joke, including the top team.
Right. So, but we were kind of just teasing this earlier, but we have one half of the Stanley Cup Final set. We could
1996.
Yep. For the first time since 1996, the Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup Final as they swept the Carolina Hurricanes. And as you mentioned,
this is the third straight time the Carolina Hurricanes have been swept in the Eastern Conference Finals. 2009 against Pittsburgh. 2019 against Boston, and
Yep.
now 2023 against Florida. They're
The-
0-12 in their last 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances.
Wouldn't that be 0-3?
I meant in terms of games.
Oh, okay.
Remember, it's best of 7.
Right. Okay. But think about that. Like 1996, and think about how this improbable of a run this was for the Panthers.
So
In the first round, they go up against the best team in NHL history, the Boston Bruins.
The
who had
62 Boston Bruins, who just claimed the regular season wins record.
And they had the most points in regular season history.
Right. Actually, let's take it back a bit further with this run, because there's one game I want to talk about that made this run happen, and that was the Chicago Blackhawks beating Pittsburgh to break the streak and to send the Panthers to the playoffs.
Yes. All the Penguins had to do was either beat the Blackhawks or beat the Blue Jackets, and Pittsburgh would have been in the playoffs. But no, they lost both.
Yep. And in turn, Chicago got the first overall pick, and Columbus didn't even have the best odds after those 2 losses.
Anaheim had the best odds, and yet
they did.
Yeah.
It's the second time that's happened too. Anaheim having the best odds and getting looked over for a team that, well, has already had a dynasty.
Yep.
Yeah, given Chicago's dynasty is more tainted than Pittsburgh's first.
Yes. But yeah, let's think about this run though. The Panthers came into the playoffs as the last team in. They came in as basically the number 8 seed. They had to come back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the record-setting Bruins in the first round. Then they had to face the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 2,
which was the first appearance since 2004 for the Leafs in the second round. They beat them in 5,
right?
Which was an improbable run. And then they had to face a Hurricanes team that I thought was dangerous.
Yes.
In the Eastern Conference Finals, and then all of a sudden, it's a sweep.
But go back to the Toronto series for a second. Do you remember what Maple Leafs fans were chanting?
Oh, yeah. They were like, "We want Florida."
Yep.
Are you sure you want Florida now? Are
yeah.
you sure?
Vegas. Are you sure you want to play the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final?
Vegas is like, at least it's not Washington this time.
If Vegas does make it to the Stanley Cup Final, it would be their second time in 6 seasons.
And by the way, neither of the teams have won a Stanley Cup, meaning whether Florida wins or Vegas wins, we get the greatest thing in sports history, a first-time champion.
Right now, it is 1-1 between the Golden Knights and Stars at the
end of the first.
Correct. If Vegas wins, then Jamie Benn's suspension would carry over to the first game of next season. Whereas if Dallas somehow holds off getting swept, then his suspension would apply to Game 5 back in Vegas.
Right.
So we shall see. But this is the Peter DeBoer effect for the Dallas Stars. Every other team Peter DeBoer has been with, whether it was San Jose, Vegas, or I think he was also with New Jersey or something.
They make the conference finals in their first year, come up short, and then soon after fall completely apart.
Yes. Granted, Peter DeBoer led the San Jose Sharks to the Stanley Cup Final in 2016.
Was that him?
Yes.
Okay.
It was. But then the Penguins beat the Sharks in 6.
That was a good series. Well, I mean, I was actually talking to a friend of mine who works at Subway today, and it was like that, or no, we weren't talking about the 2016 we were talking about the 2017 Nashville Predators and how if it had been any team but Pittsburgh, Nashville would have a cup.
Yes. Think about that, though. Nashville was basically a 7. They were either a 7 seed or an 8 seed.
They were one of the 2 wild cards. I just do not remember which, but they had probably one of the most memorable Western Conference runs in NHL history.
So think about that. We had Nashville, either a 7 seed or an 8 seed, make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. We had the 2012 LA Kings. They were
an 8th seed, and they faced the 6th seed.
And they won. They won the Stanley Cup.
You got Vegas in 2018, who, yeah, they won the Pacific.
Yeah. So,
but the thing is, they were in their first year as a team.
Right, but I'm talking about like teams that were lower seeds.
I thought we were just talking about like straight up, like, you shouldn't be here, but you are.
I mean, you could say that, but like, I'm talking more lower seeds. Like when you had
like Florida, who was an 8th seed, they had to go against a record setter, and they made it all the way.
The LA Kings in 2012, like we mentioned earlier.
Right.
Nashville in
I'm
2017.
trying to think of who else would fit that mold. I'm trying to think of. I guess was St. Louis a lower seed against Winnipeg?
They were a 3 seed.
You could call that a lower seed.
I guess.
Because they had to face a higher seed.
That is true. But they weren't like a 6 seed or an 8 seed or something.
Technically, it would make them, because you got the division leaders, who are the 1 and the 2. You got them, the 2 of each division, which are the 3 and the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the 3 in each division, which are the 5 and the 6. Mm-hmm. Then you got the 2 wild cards, which are 7, 8. So they kind of would be a 5th or 6th seed,
I guess.
And the NHL playoffs, their system works differently than the NBA. So it's kind of like every 3 seed is really a 5-6, and every 2 seed is really a 3-4.
Right. Yeah, it's weird with the NHL. I don't totally get it.
I never understood the system. They used to do 1 through 8. Like we said about the 2012 LA Kings. They were legitimately called the 8th seed.
I wish the NHL would go back to the 1 through 8 system. It would make things so much easier.
Right, but then divisions wouldn't be important. And the NHL is trying to push division over conference.
Yeah, I get that. But like, I feel like it just gets confusing when you're trying to figure out like what we're talking about now. Like, was Nashville a 7 seed, or were they an 8 seed? Or
that's why I think they do the wild cards geniusly. Wild card 1 is always the 7th seed. Wild card 2 is always the 8th seed.
Gotcha. And with the West, either Dallas is going to get be in the Stanley Cup Final for the second time in 4 years. 4 years, because they were in the 2020 Stanley Cup Final against
the bubble final against Tampa.
Right.
Which Tampa won in 6.
Right.
That was a good series.
Which, let's stay on that for a second. Think about that. This is the 4th straight year a team from Florida is in the Stanley Cup Final.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't think a teams from Florida would be having this much success in the
It's kind of the same thing with California, because like you wouldn't expect, the LA Kings have 2 Stanley Cups and the San Jose Sharks have made a cup final. It's like, wait, they play out in California. Hockey isn't prevalent there.
And the Anaheim Ducks have a Stanley Cup.
That is true, 2007. And they have another appearance in
1990s.
Nope, it was not the 90s. It was I want to say it was 2002. It was either 2002 or 2003.
Against
It would have
New Jersey.
It would have been New Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was 2003 because 2002 I believe
was
Red Wings Capitals. I believe.
Was it Red Wings Capitals?
I know the Red Wings were in it. That might have been Red Wings Devils actually.
Let me check.
But
2002.
Either way though, but think about it. Like you were saying, I think
Red Wings Canes.
You were saying earlier in our group text that no, it was one of our buddies, John, who was saying that now the Panthers run the state of Florida.
They can't really ever because Tampa has 3 things they don't.
Right.
2004 Stanley Cup Final, 2020 Stanley Cup Final, and 2021 Stanley Cup Final.
And they won the championship those years, but they also made the Stanley Cup Final in 2015 and 2022.
Right. Losing the 2 teams from the Central, actually.
Correct. Chicago and Colorado.
Yep.
And one of their 3 Stanley Cups came against a team from the Central Division,
in
Dallas.
Their first one came against a team in the Pacific Division, Calgary, and their most recent Stanley Cup came against, and this is going to sound very weird to people that didn't understand how the 2021 NHL season worked. They faced an Eastern Conference team.
Right. We're not going to get into all of that.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't think Montreal should have been there.
No. But whatever.
That was another team reaching the Cup Final on impossible odds too.
Yeah. You could put Montreal in there. They were
let's see. They were dead last in their division. Well, they weren't dead last in their division. They were 4th in their division. They had to go up against the Leafs. And they came back from a 3-1 deficit.
Yes.
And then they had to face Edmonton, which Edmonton has the 2 of the best players in the league right now.
I question that because
best regular season players.
Okay.
And then they had to face Vegas.
Right. Oh, that's funny. They played Western Conference teams in all 3 of their series.
No, Toronto's East.
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew that. Clearly.
Yeah, Toronto used to be Western Conference. So did Tampa, actually. Fun fact.
Anyway, but yeah, I would say until the Panthers, even if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup,
they need at least 2 more to even come close to Tampa.
Right.
And they need at least 1 other losing appearance because they lost in 1996 in 4 games to the Colorado Avalanche, who had just moved there from Quebec City. And fun fact, that's why a lot of Quebec City fans hate Colorado. It's because the year they moved to Colorado, they won the Stanley Cup. And I mean, isn't that part of the chart? Well, no, because it took the Ravens 4 years to win a Super Bowl after moving from Cleveland.
Right.
But But in the words of Dolph Ziggler, it should have been us.
I
had a funny pitch the other day.
Okay.
Dolph Ziggler dethroning Roman Reigns.
All right. I guess that's a good transition because now we've got WWE Night of Champions.
And I am excited for this. There are a bunch of matches on the card that I like, some that I and then there's Becky versus Trish.
I would say the only title that could possibly change hands is the Raw Women's Championship.
Once again, Bianca Belair should lose her title to Asuka. They should have done it at Mania.
Right. There's no way Gunther is losing the title to Mustafa Ali.
No, there's only 3 men I'd like to see dethrone Gunther.
Okay.
Drew McIntyre.
He seems to be having issues with WWE right now, so we'll see.
Johnny Gargano.
Okay.
And a call-up from NXT and a man from Gunther's past. Ilya Dragunov.
Okay. There's no way Rhea Ripley is losing the SmackDown Women's Championship to Natalya.
Even though I'd much like Natalya to have at least one more title reign before hanging up the boots.
And it wouldn't make sense to give Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa the SmackDown or the.
If they did that, I wouldn't watch WWE ever again.
If Roman Reigns wasn't the undisputed champion, I would say there's a possibility it could happen, but no.
Well, I just don't think it's going to happen because, again, like with Rhea Ripley, it's too close to Mania. They just started their title reign. Give them a little more time.
Right. And I think the Usos are going to cost Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa the match.
I think they're going to cost them the match, break up the bloodline. I think that should happen. It probably should have happened at Backlash, but this is a better setting to break up the bloodline. Have Roman Reigns be there, and then give Solo the command to Samoan Spike Jay, but Sami Zayn steps in and saves Jay's life. Or saves Jay's, I guess, body? I don't know.
I think with their it's been teased that they might do Roman and Solo Sikoa versus the Usos at either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam.
That's too much of a gap between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam to keep that feud going. So I think it most likely would happen at Money in the Bank. Unless their plan is to put Solo in the ladder match. Which
we'll see.
I absolutely wouldn't mind that. I think Solo Sikoa is great. I think, honestly, if Paul Heyman ever portrays Roman Reigns, it should be in favor of Solo Sikoa.
Overall, I would say if I had to give this card a grade, I would give it a solid C. It feels very average for me. Like
it's called Night of Champions, yet the WWE, Universal, and Women's Tag titles are not being defended, and neither is the United States Championship.
Correct.
You can't have a pay-per-view called Night of Champions,
premium live event,
whatever, and have your top two titles, your best mid-card title, arguably, and, well, we don't really care about the women's tag titles, but not having the WWE Undisputed Universal Championships on the line is criminal.
Yes.
And also, I did see that there was a pitch to do Austin Theory versus LA Knight, but the plans fell through very last minute.
And then you have the two non-title matches, which are Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. It's been a pretty good feud. I wouldn't say it's been like overly great, but it's been pretty good.
Right.
It'll be a very good match. I'll give it that, because Becky Lynch, we know what she can do in the ring.
And Trish Stratus, she's a legend.
Right.
And then you've got Brock versus Cody round 2.
First of all, I don't know why they're feuding. I don't get it.
I guess because Cody called Brock the gatekeeper to the WWE Championship, and to get to Roman, he's got to get through Brock. But he's already gotten to Roman.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Cody got a title shot too soon at WrestleMania. I get that he came back and beat Seth Rollins, which, again, you know my feelings about that whole feud.
Good feud.
Yes, but I think WWE booked it wrong.
You're right, because Cody won all 3 matches.
Right. I would have had Seth win at WrestleMania and just annoy Cody so much that they do the rematch at WrestleMania Backlash, and that leads to Hell in a Cell. That's how I would have booked it, but That's all in the past. I get it. But then to
Okay.
put Cody right into a feud with Roman Reigns,
Especially after he'd been out for all that time with an injury.
Right.
And then he comes back and wins the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I mean, you knew it was going to happen, but I just think it was too soon. But again, I just don't care about this feud or this match. I don't really like Cody Rhodes. I don't really like Brock. So I'm sure the match is going to be very good, but I'm just like, okay. And
right.
Like, why am I supposed to care about this? I don't know.
It's not a very good match. It like their match at Backlash was okay. I get why they had to finish it early because Brock got busted open by the exposed turnbuckle.
Yeah, and now they're doing this like storyline with Cody Rhodes having a broken arm or something, but him still saying, I need to go and fight, blah, 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 blah.
It doesn't make any sense. But now, let's actually talk about the main event of Night of Champions, the title that kind of feels like a consolation prize. Like, oh, no one can beat Rome, or we're booking Roman to be unbeatable. Let's introduce a title so that Raw has a main title because Vince screwed up and made us unify two titles that should have never been unified. Yay!
Yeah. You're talking about Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles, which
for the new World Heavyweight Championship.
I feel like this match is gonna be the best match I think on the card.
I'd still give that to Sammy and KO versus Roman and Solo because we know what all four men can do. We know the Usos are going to get involved.
Yeah, but at the
storyline wise, I'm giving it to the tag match, but
overall match,
like spots wise, it's hard to get better than Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, I bet we get like a Seth kicking out the phenomenal forearm. I bet you AJ kicks out the curb stomp.
The curb stomp, and maybe even Seth has to do what he did with Omos at Backlash and do the super stomp.
You know what move I haven't seen Seth hit in a while? The Falcon Arrow.
That's because he replaced it with the pedigree.
I'd like to see him bring it back.
If he had to bring it back, I would like to see him bring it back against the guy who stole that move in Damian Priest with the broken arrow.
But I think that would be a really surprising but fantastic finish to this match if he were to hit the Falcon Arrow.
Absolutely.
I would love that.
Because the last time he used the Falcon Arrow, I think, was against AJ Styles.
It might have been, but I think that I don't mind that he replaced it with the pedigree.
Because the pedigree is one of the,
legendary.
That is the pinnacle. Like, think of how many wrestlers use it. You've got Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Seth Rollins, Cody, of course.
I think it would be better if he used the Falcon Arrow because I feel like
Johnny Gargano used it in NXT.
Yes, but I think the Falcon Arrow is better because I feel like Seth really made that move his own.
Right, even though he now shares it with the former Neville, aka Pac, and Damian Priest.
Right.
Aka Damian Priest.
I'd love to see a singles feud between Seth and Damian Priest for the title.
That would be awesome.
I would love that.
But I feel like the Judgment Day isn't allowing Damian, Finn, or Dominic to flourish as singles competitors, and that's kind of my major problem with the Judgment Day is that they're getting into feuds, but the singles match is reserved for Finn Balor.
And Rhea Ripley.
If, the person they're feuding with is a woman. But, I would love to see Damian Priest get a singles feud outside of Bad Bunny. I would love to see Dominic get a singles feud outside of his father. I would love
Again,
it. Honestly, I think Dominic Mysterio's next feud should be Matt Riddle, because I just want to see that match.
we kind of talked about this during our WrestleMania show, but think about this. Rhea Ripley had a match at WrestleMania. Dominic Mysterio had a WrestleMania match. Finn Balor had a match at WrestleMania.
Right.
Guess who didn't? Damian Priest.
And then take a look at Backlash. Who had matches? Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Yeah, sure, Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor got involved with the San Juan street fight. But then again, everyone got involved. I mean, Carlito even showed up. Who had that in their cards for 2023 wrestling, that Carlito was going to show up?
Right. And also, you had the
Savio
legend.
Vega.
Yes.
Savio Vega. And then the LWO, which I am so glad they're doing something with Legado del Fantasma. Now do something with your other Latino stable, Los Lotharios.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with all that.
And then you got the Maximum Male Models, I think, are falling apart because Maxine Dupree left them for Alpha Academy.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that. It's clear, though, that coming out of this Mustafa Ali match, they're going to do a feud between Gunther and Matt Riddle. They teased it on Raw.
I wouldn't mind that, actually. And you know what? If anything else, give Matt Riddle the IC title. He needs a singles title.
I don't think Matt Riddle should get a title, because when he was U.S. champion, I was just like, oh my God.
He was U.S. champion, wasn't he?
Yes, he lost it to Sheamus at WrestleMania 37.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I thought we were going to do Sheamus versus Austin Theory at this event, because I think it was last week, Sheamus just hit Austin Theory with a brogue kick.
Like I had said, the plans for Austin Theory were originally LA Knight, which I wouldn't mind that. Like those promos. Well, I don't know about Austin Theory's promos. Like, I feel like he needs some work. But LA Knight is a fantastic promo. He has been since he was Eli Drake in Impact or TNA.
That his feud with Bray Wyatt though was terrible.
Why?
And then you had that
Pitchfork match was so bad.
And oh my God, that
don't forget about Uncle Howdy missing LA Knight by a country mile with that elbow drop.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that.
So bad. That was a waste of LA Knight's time. That was a waste of Bray Wyatt's time, and somehow that was an even bigger waste of Alexa Bliss's time because she had a match on that card that was also terrible.
Yes. And then they teased something with Bray Wyatt after that, and then nothing.
We haven't heard from Alexa Bliss or Bray Wyatt since the Rumble.
Well, no, they were they were doing a feud between Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley for WrestleMania, and then Bray Wyatt.
That is true.
And which I didn't like that feud anyway, so I'm glad they didn't do it. I hate that it was because Bray Wyatt got sick, but still.
I don't think the feud. Bobby Lashley shouldn't be involved in any sort of supernatural feuds.
Yes.
Honestly, Bobby Lashley's feuds over since his return after WrestleMania 34 have kind of been
Yeah.
You had that feud with Sami Zayn, right?
Yeah.
With
you had
his sisters.
You had his feud with Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship.
I mean, I didn't mind that feud. Then you had his never-ending feud with Brock Lesnar.
Yep, he had a feud with Roman Reigns.
He's feuded with Austin Theory on and off. He's feuded with Seth Rollins on and off over the U.S. title, which, while we're on the subject, while we're on the subject of mid-card titles, if Brock and Gunther do eventually get their feud, should the IC title be involved? I think it shouldn't. I don't think Brock should be chasing a mid-card title unless he's trying to speedrun becoming a Grand Slam champion, which shockingly he isn't.
Well, because he would also have to have the U.S. Championship and the tag team titles.
Both tag team titles, which he's never had any of them. I mean, unless you want to bring back, what was it, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew and pair him with Shelton Benjamin again?
I don't know.
That was his original tag team, too.
Right now, the Celtics are up 53-40 in the second quarter.
Let me check score on the NHL side of things.
Still 1-1.
Okay.
So we got about 3 minutes left, but we're going to just end this segment now because there's a bigger pay-per-view that I'd much rather talk about because, again, Night of Champions just doesn't quite do it for me.
You're talking about Sunday at 8 p.m. NXT Battleground. I'm just kidding.
AEW Double or Nothing. The tagline of this pay-per-view should be just get ready for violence.
So let's review some of the matches we have on that card.
We have the Fatal 4-Way Pillars match. MJF versus Jack Perry. I'm not calling him Jungle Boy. Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin for the AEW World Championship.
We have Anarchy in the Arena 2, the Elite versus the BCC. In the words of great ring announcer and Undertaker ring annour Justin Roberts at before last year's Anarchy in the Arena match, Double or Nothing Anarchy in the Arena match, shit's about to hit the fan.
Yes, we have an unsanctioned match, Chris Jericho versus Adam Cole, which Sabu came out last night, and he's going to be...
What?
Yes, because, Jericho was like, it's just you and Roderick Strong against me and all the JAS. And Adam Cole gets on the microphone and goes, here's Sabu.
What? I will say this. I would be disappointed in AEW if, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish didn't show up. I mean, I get Kyle O'Reilly. He was dealing with a neck injury. But
what?
Bring back the Undisputed Era. You have all 4 members under contract.
Yeah. I don't know if Bobby Fish is under contract, actually. But either way,
he did.
Either way, though, why Sabu?
Right. I get it. It's an unsanctioned match, ECW and all that. But
from what I understand, there's some type of ECW connection between Sabu and Chris Jericho, but
there is, and it was from WWE's time owning ECW.
But still, that doesn't tie into Adam Cole.
Right. There's very few people within AEW who tie to Adam Cole, and they're all within the Elite.
Yes.
Or the Undisputed Era.
Yes. So why not bring back Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish? Then you would have all 4. Roderick Strong, Adam Cole,
right.
Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly. There you go.
Right. I mean, again, with Kyle O'Reilly, he may not be back for that neck injury, but Bobby Fish you could certainly bring back.
Yes. We also have a ladder match, Wardlow versus Christian Cage for the TNT Championship. That's going to be an okay match. The feud has been meh. So it's going to be a pretty good match. You have Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter for the Women's Championship. I'm fully expecting Toni Storm to win here. I don't think Jamie Hayter is fully recovered from her injuries. And this Outcast versus Homegrown storyline has just not
It's had its moments. Apparently, Sheeta's in Vegas, so there's a chance she might get involved on behalf of Jamie Hayter.
Sheeta and Britt are actually in a tag team tomorrow night on Rampage against Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir.
Which that was a dark elevation tag team, by the way.
Right.
Those two.
Britt and Sheeta also were in a tag team match last week against Tony Storm and
Right.
Ruby Soho. Actually,
they were originally supposed to be a trios tag match, but Jamie Hayter's injury kept her on the sidelines.
Right. What I was kind of hoping was that since they're doing this whole homegrown versus outcast storyline, you remember the match we did last year at Full Gear, Saraya versus Britt?
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do the rematch between them.
Right. I would have loved to see Britt on the card as more than just a cheerleader for Jamie Hayter.
Yes, Britt is one of your stars, and I think this is.
I'd say like, you know how we have the 4 pillars, right, on the men's side. Who would you put as the 4 women's pillars of AEW?
Britt, Sheeta. I would. I'm trying to think. Would you say Nyla Rose?
She was the second ever women's champion.
Okay, then by that logic, you would say Riho.
That's exactly my 4. Riho, Nyla, Sheeta, Baker.
Yes, and of all those 4, Sheeta and Britt were the best 2 champions.
Of course, and I'd slightly put Sheeta over Britt because she did have the longer reign.
Yes, but for me, I would put Britt ahead because I think she had the better matches.
I mean, have you seen any of Sheeta's matches as champion? They were. I don't think she had a match under 4.5 stars.
Oh, trust me, I really enjoyed all of Sheeta's matches, but yes, with Britt's matches, you knew that Jamie Hayter and Rebel were going to get involved at some point, but I still really, really enjoyed them. Like,
Britt,
I think say that again. I think your audio went out.
I think Britt should at some point have a title reign as babyface. I wouldn't mind it. I mean, Britt as a babyface is growing on me, even if it is still a bit weird given how good of a heel she was and how heated some of her heel feuds are. Now she's working with Sheeta, who arguably was her most heated feud outside of
I would say
Thunder Rosa.
I would say Thunder Rosa, and then Statlander. I would say was
that Statlander feud was pretty heated.
You have to admit, you and I watched that Statlander match.
Oh, Statlander can go.
Yes,
and that's why I think a lot of people are waiting for her to return because Jade Cargill should not have been champion this long.
Yes, which she is facing Taya Valkyrie for the TBS championship.
And this is a rematch. And I think since this is the first time someone's ever gotten a rematch against Jade, I think this is Taya's time to win.
Yes, and Taya is allowed to use the Road to Valhalla, which is basically another version of the Jaded. That's why she was suspended, because she hit a referee with that move.
So Roman can spear a referee without getting suspended. Oh, wrestling rules are weird.
I don't know. You also have the 21-person blackjack battle royal for the international championship,
which I heard a rumor. That because there's a Joker spot in this, isn't there?
No, not that I know of. All the participants were announced today.
Okay, and I did see who a lot of them were.
Yes.
You got the Lucha Brothers, you've got Jay White, you've got
Juice Robinson, Swerve.
Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee, Ricky Starks, Lee
Don't get me
Moriarty,
started on that one. I'm so pissed about that. You have
Big
no idea.
Bill, Ari Daivari, the Best Friends,
Tony
the Butcher and the
Nese.
Blade, Bandito, Commander, Kip Sabian, Brian Cage, and I never thought I'd see him on pay-per-view again, Dustin Rhodes.
So, the Celtics are up 61.
Oh, I forgot to say Juice Robinson. I forgot he was there.
I'm pissed right now about this. We've had this Ricky Starks versus Bullet Club Gold match or feud going since the Dynamite after Revolution.
Right.
Last week, the match between Ricky Starks and Jay White ended in a disqualification when Ricky Starks slammed a chair over the back of Jay White. And you're not going to do a singles match between them at Double or Nothing.
Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why? By the way, Vegas has scored. It's 2-1 now.
I know we don't typically swear on this show, but I'm going to right now. What the fuck? Like,
it's just,
I'm pissed.
If you had all of the sense in the world to do this, if it was about limiting pay-per-view matches because of fan complaints or whatnot, what's one more match gonna do?
Yes.
I get that they're in that battle royale, but you couldn't have found two easy replacements that aren't already on the Double or Nothing card. You're not using the House of Black. Why not them?
You're not using Brian Pillman Jr. or Griff Garrison. How about them?
Right. And have them do a spot with the varsity athletes leading to a match where the varsity blondes can take back their name.
The Acclaimed isn't doing anything. How about that?
You could have had the Acclaimed. And it was like, oh, but Juice Robinson would have to work aside. Daddy ass. You can have Dustin Rhodes, but not daddy ass?
Like, seriously.
And on that point, they're not using Ethan Page or the Guns either.
That's not true. They're actually facing the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy. I think that's going to be the kickoff match.
Oh, that's on the kickoff match. Ooh.
I'm surprised that's not on the main card. But come on, and we're not doing the match between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland.
Which, honestly, that feud, you're right on that feud. It's kind of just like, what are they doing with it? Are they going to do it? Are they not? I don't know. And frankly, I don't even want to know.
At this point, I just don't care.
Right. That doesn't make any sense.
But, think about this. Ricky had all this momentum after beating Chris Jericho at Revolution. And then he's in this feud with Juice Robinson and Jay White. I don't even know why they're feuding. I don't.
I don't either. And also, here's another list of names that they're not using. Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yep.
What happened to that push?
I don't know. Sean Spears,
of course.
Actually, to go back to the Ricky Starks thing for a second, because Ricky slammed Jay White in the back with the chair, I think they should have done a chairs match between the two of them, because whose nickname is the Chairman?
One. Sean Spears, back when he was with the Pinnacle, alongside FTR, Wardlow, and MJF.
Which, I'm not even going to talk about the FTR versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett match, because that's one of my two bathroom break matches.
The other one being the TBS title match.
Yes.
I want to stay for that one just because this is the first time anyone's gotten a rematch against Jade. It has to mean Jade is losing this title.
We'll see. But I just don't care about either one of those feuds.
Honestly, I don't either, especially because, this whole Mark Briscoe thing, he's calling it down the middle because of what FTR did. They did that, Dax Harwood accidentally pile drivered him.
Yes. So, but
And of course,
oh
the
my,
way he slapped Mark Briscoe slapped Jeff Jarrett to the ground on Dynamite yesterday was hilarious.
I think we might be planting the seeds for a Jay Lethal babyface turn.
I wouldn't mind that. Just get rid of Sanjay Dutt. He's so annoying.
And please get Jeff Jarrett off of my TV. I
don't want to see slap nuts every week. This is a 4th title shot.
Yes.
These two have gotten, or tag title shot, these two have gotten. Why? Nobody wants it. Nobody even likes them.
So let's get to the 4 pillars match. Because I've heard something interesting. That it's not going to be, it's going to be Jungle Boy. Or, nope, I'm not calling him that. It's going to be Jack Perry who lays down and takes the pin for MJF. And
he's going to turn heel.
Yes. Ooh. That's what I've heard.
Okay.
What do you think?
And also, I wonder, because they're setting up Sammy Guevara to be a babyface, so could they do a double turn?
You know what? Actually, you know what feud I want to see? Heel Jack Perry versus a babyface Ricky Starks. Tell me that feud would be fantastic.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you on that all the way. But
I would love to see that feud. Oh my God.
Maybe that could be part of Ricky Starks' climb back to the top. It's like, oh, you took on MJF for the title? Well, I'll take you on. Maybe that'll get me in his good graces or whatever.
Yes, and I'm not changing my stance. Even though Adam Cole will have something to say about it, I'm still going to say that Ricky Starks is going to be the one that takes down MJF.
I would agree, but I don't know. We got to see what heel Kenny as champion is like. I want to see Kenny Omega have a babyface championship run.
I don't think we're going to get that because you still have this whole Don Callis storyline.
I think this is going to lead to Konosuke, to Takeshita joining the BCC. And then with no other... Well, at Blood and Guts, with no other options on the line...
Ibushi.
Kota Ibushi.
Yeah. This Anarchy...
I know you're watching this, Tony. Book it now.
Anarchy in the arena is going to be...
I don't think it's going to top last year's when Eddie Kingston almost set Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson on fire.
Oh, no, I think with who's in it, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman, Moxley, Danielson.
I mean, basically, the Moxley and Danielson know what Anarchy in the Arena is like. They did it last year. The problem is, Wheeler Yuta, he's boring. Claudio can go. I love Claudio. Cesaro will forever be.
That's another feud I would love to see. Wheeler Yuta versus Ricky Starks.
Okay, I can see that. But if you told me back in 2016 that there would be a heel stable featuring Dean Ambrose, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan, I would have laughed in your face.
But just think about that. Like, think about what this match is going to be when you've got, no disrespect to Wheeler Yuta or Claudio, but you've got Moxley and Danielson. And then on the other side, you have Hangman Adam Page. We know what Hangman and Moxley can do because that Texas Death match
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then we know what Kenny and Moxley can do. Sparklers aside, that barbed wire death match that exploding barbed wire death match was fire at Revolution 2021.
And don't forget the steel cage match we just had.
Yeah, screwdrivers aside, of course.
Yes. And plus you have the Young Bucks, and when have the Young Bucks ever had a bad match?
Right. They're known for putting on the best match of all time. Every match they've ever put on. Young Bucks versus Omega Hangman, Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers, Double or Nothing, or All Out 2019 in that ladder match. Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers All Out 2021 in that cage match.
You had
You have
the
Cesaro or Claudio Castagnoli, who's, I mean, he's good at everything. How many times is he gonna? How many times is he gonna spin Kenny around in that giant swing though?
I don't know.
Or does
Hey,
he get him in the giant swing?
that's another name you could have put in this Casino Royale. Eddie Kingston.
But he doesn't want to work with AEW. He wants to work with ROH.
Oh,
Well, what about Samoa Joe? I would love to see Samoa Joe work in a
how
battle
about
royal.
what about Pac?
Right. Or
Yeah.
right, Pac. He's not being used.
No,
Plus, he could reunite with the Lucha Brothers for some Death Triangle spots.
right. But Dallas just tied it up. Vegas, Jason Robertson.
So it's 2-2 now.
Yes. We're not going to talk about the UFC stuff. We're just going to end it after this Double or Nothing stuff.
Let's see, what other matches do we have to cover?
We talked about the unsanctioned match. We talked
a bit about the we just mentioned the ladder match. We didn't share our thoughts on it.
I don't know what why this is a ladder match.
I don't know why Christian Cage is still on pay-per-view after that final burial match.
It's because the TNT Championship is like this open championship where you do like open challenges and stuff, and it's
right. But why not do big man versus big man? Why not have it be Luchasaurus versus Wardlow?
That's what we all thought it was going to be, and then Christian Cage said, "Yeah, it's not for Luchasaurus, it's for me." And everybody's like, "What?
Why?" And since this is a ladder match, Luchasaurus could get involved because ladder matches are no DQ.
Yeah, which Arn Anderson could get involved because,
right.
And there's speculation that the Four Horsemen could come back because Arn Anderson was saying that Ric
Flair's not going to show up in AEW.
No, not like make a new Four Horsemen stable or something. I don't know.
What is it going to be? Arn Anderson, Sting?
No, it would be like Wardlow.
Chris Jericho.
Maybe you do like Wardlow, Pac, Brian Pillman Jr., something like that.
Pac's a heel. He's not going to work with Wardlow.
I don't know. Just putting ideas out there.
Here would be my Four Horsemen stable. With if you're gonna put Wardlow in there, give me Wardlow. Give me if you have to do one, Matt Hardy, I guess, or Jeff. I don't know. I'd like to see Hangman and Page do some work with Wardlow. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And then I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is. And then we also have the Indy 500, which Graham Rahal is back in there because
yeah, he's replacing a injured driver driving the number 24. I was talking to someone about it. I was like, man, I would love to see Sage Karam get one last run in it, and then he's like, yeah, but I think Rahal will do a good job. And that's when I immediately went to you, and I'm like, Graham Rahal's back.
I'd love to see Rahal win. The fact that he was even out of the Indy 500, I'm like, no.
I've actually switched my favorite driver from Simon Pagenaud to his former Penske teammate and 2022 Mid-Ohio winner, Scott McLaughlin.
But
he won at my home track, and when I was there in person.
Yes, but I don't know who's gonna win this race. I really do. I think Hunter Ray's back in this race.
Right, Hunter Ray's back. Oh man, I'm so proud of him. Next year we'll have a NASCAR driver in it, Kyle Larson.
You also have the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend, which they're not doing it at Charlotte. They're doing it at, I forget the name of the track.
No, it's at Charlotte. The All-Star race was at North Wilkesboro.
Yes, that's what it was.
And apparently that sucked.
But
Kyle Larson dominated all of it.
Gotcha. But we're going to wrap things up because I got to go and use facilities. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah. So don't forget to punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter. Hit that like button with the Judas effect courtesy of Chris Jericho. And give that notification bell an RKO out of nowhere courtesy of the Viper, Randy Orton.
Cool.